That was the sound of his world ending, the sound of 1,000 phones receiving the truth all at once. I watched the color drain from Liam Carter's face as he stood on that stage, award in hand. He looked right at me, pure, unadulterated horror. He knew. It was over. 6 months ago, none of this had happened. 6 months ago, he told me he loved me. 6 months ago, rain hammered the windows. Our tiny apartment was the only world that mattered. The city lights blurred into watercolor streaks. It was safe. It was ours. I made you coffee, Elle. Liam's voice was a low hum beside me. His hand was warm on my shoulder. The way I like it? I asked, not looking up, a soft chuckle. Is there any other way? I leaned into his touch, breathing him in. We were so close to the finish line then. Years of work poured into the company we built. Vance and Carter. It was more than a name. It was a promise. He knelt beside my chair, his eyes level with mine. We built this from nothing, you and me. His voice was pure, unwavering conviction. It's our future, Eleanor. Our world. I would protect it. And you, with my life. His phone buzzed on the table then, a flash of light across his earnest face. He glanced down, then quickly flipped it over. Who was that? No one, he said, a little too fast. Just spam. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. I'll always protect you. You know that, right? He left for coffee. The silence in the office was heavy. His phone sat on the table, face down, a dark mirror reflecting the ceiling lights. Just spam, he'd said. But his eyes, they said something else entirely. My hand trembled as I reached for it. This was wrong, a violation of trust. But trust had already been violated. That quick, dismissive lie was a splinter in my mind. I couldn't let it go. The screen lit up, demanding a password. My fingers hovered, then typed the only code that ever mattered to us. 0815, the day our dream, our company, was born. It opened instantly. Notifications were muted, except for one app, a secure messenger. The top chat was with a name that made my blood run cold. Marcus Thorne, our biggest, most ruthless competitor. I opened the thread. The final transfer is ready. Marcus, and the source code. Liam, send it. She'll never know until it's too late. My breath caught in my throat. I scrolled up, my heart hammering against my ribs. Photos of our proprietary algorithm, data streams, server credentials. Then I saw the last message from Liam, sent just minutes ago. The deal is done. I'm looking at her right now. She doesn't suspect a thing. She still thinks this is our world. I placed his phone back on the table, my movement slow, deliberate. The screen went dark, hiding its venomous secrets. I turned to him and forced a smile, a fragile mask over the chasm that had just opened in my life. A tiny, foolish part of me prayed I was wrong. I was just thinking, I began, my voice a stranger to my own ears, about our next launch, about everything we've built. I looked him in the eye, giving him one last chance. Tell me it's all going to be worth it. Liam, he smiled, that easy, confident smile that once made my world turn. Of course it is, Elle, he said, his voice smooth as silk. This is our world. We're unstoppable. The words, his words from the message, struck me like a physical blow. The last flicker of hope inside me was extinguished. The hurt didn't vanish. It crystallized. It forged itself into a single, clear purpose. He looked at me, seeing his prize, his fool. He still thinks this is his world to take. He's about to find out it was always mine to burn. The rage didn't scream. It went silent. It became a cold, sharp point in the center of my chest. At home, the only light was the glow of my laptop screen. Liam's digital life was a fortress, but I had helped him build the walls. I knew the secret doors. I started with the easy passwords: his dog's name, his birthday, child's play. He was smarter than that. I typed in the name of the restaurant from our first date. Denied. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a frantic, quiet dance. Every failure was a small, sharp sting of the past. Then I remembered his words. Our world. My hands froze above the keys. I typed it in. OURWORLD1. Password accepted. The gates to his kingdom swung open. His emails were clean. His messages scrubbed. He was covering his tracks, the coward. But he always had a blind spot. His ego. He'd have kept trophies somewhere. A private cloud drive. I found it buried in a subfolder labeled Legacy. Most of it was business plans, projections, our old pitch decks, my work rebranded with his name. The anger flared, but I pushed it down. This was a hunt, not a tantrum. Then I saw it. A single, encrypted folder. The name made the air in my lungs turn to ice. Project Nightingale. It took me 20 minutes to bypass the encryption. It wasn't a master plan to steal my app. It was something else. Financial records I didn't recognize. Offshore accounts. And a list of names. Journalists, creators, investors. None of them were people I knew. What is this? This was bigger than my stolen code. It was darker. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a conspiracy. And I was going to unravel every last thread. I started with the names on Liam's list. I ran them through every database I could access, cross-referencing them against the financials, journalists, investors. None of it made sense. It was a web of ghosts, leading nowhere. My last resort was the project name itself, a long shot, but it was all I had left. I typed the 2 words into a search engine. Project Nightingale. The first few links were nothing, old articles, military history. But then I saw it, a simple, unassuming website, the Nightingale Foundation for Pediatric Care, a charity. My blood ran cold. I clicked through the pages, photo galleries of sick children, testimonials from grieving parents. The Our Patrons section was a gut punch. Every name from Liam's list was there. The offshore accounts weren't for hiding stolen money. They were a pipeline, funneling anonymous donations to this foundation. This wasn't a conspiracy. It was a desperate, secret fundraiser. But why? Why all the secrecy? I navigated to the memorial page. In loving memory, I scrolled past dozens of smiling faces, all gone too soon, and then I saw her, a little girl with Liam's eyes. Isla Carter died 2 years ago. The world tilted on its axis, my app, my stolen code. It was never about greed. It was about repaying a debt for a life he couldn't save. My enemy, my monster, was just a brother trying to keep a promise to his sister's ghost. Isla Carter. The name echoed in the sudden vast silence of my apartment. Liam's eyes, staring out from a ghost's face, my righteous crusade, my quest for justice. It all felt like a lie. The monster I had built in my mind crumbled to dust, replaced by a grieving brother, haunted by a promise. My enemy wasn't a monster. He was just a man. And the anger I'd held onto so tightly, it was gone, leaving a hollow, bitter ache in its place. But the story didn't add up. A secret fundraiser for a children's hospital. Why the secrecy? Why the conspiracy? Grief makes you reckless, desperate. It doesn't make you a master of corporate espionage. Something was wrong. Someone was missing from the equation. I closed the memorial page. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a new fire in them. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about the truth. I bypassed the fundraiser's public face. I dug into the code, the transaction logs, the dark data, following the money. It was buried deep, hidden behind layers of encryption, a single massive wire transfer. The seed money that started it all. It wasn't from Liam Carter. The sender's name made the air freeze in my lungs. Marcus Thorne, CEO of Omnicorp. The man who publicly condemned Liam's theft. The man who offered me a job after my life was ruined. He didn't just exploit my code. He exploited a man's grief. He found a broken brother and weaponized his love for his sister. He used a dead girl's memory for a power play. My anger returned, not hot, but cold and sharp as glass. My target just changed. Liam Carter was never the real villain. He was just the first victim. My target just changed. I poured that cold rage into my keyboard. Hacking Omnicorp from the inside wasn't just easy. It was my new reason for breathing. I was looking for a crack in Marcus Thorne's empire. I found something else, a hidden directory, buried layers deep. Its name was simple, chilling. Insurance. My blood ran cold. Inside was a single automated program, a dead man's switch. It was linked to dozens of news outlets, federal agencies. The payload was split into 2 encrypted files. File 1 was labeled Carter. It held everything on Liam, the original code, doctored emails, false testimonies, enough to send him to prison for life. File 2 was labeled Vance. My own name stared back at me. My hand shook as I decrypted it. It was my work for Omnicorp, twisted, framed as corporate espionage for a rival company. Timestamps, falsified communications, a perfect, undeniable lie. The trigger was elegant in its cruelty. If any of Marcus's illegal projects were exposed, if his stock dipped from a public scandal, the entire package would detonate. It would destroy us both automatically. This was never about getting his code back. He didn't weaponize Liam's grief to win a battle. He did it to get a new weapon, me. Marcus didn't just put Liam in a cage. He built another one, just for me, and I walked right into it. For a long time, there was only the silence, the hollow echo of a checkmate. Marcus hadn't just beaten me. He had used my own hands to build the cage, every secret I uncovered, every line of code I wrote. He twisted it all into the bars of my own prison. My ambition was the lock on the door. I was a ghost, haunting my own life, a failsafe for his empire, a weapon designed to never be fired, just a threat, sitting on a shelf, collecting dust. Then I heard it, a faint rhythm, cutting through the quiet, my own pulse, a steady, defiant drumbeat in the dark. Marcus built his trap out of one material, fear, my fear of ruin, of exposure, of failure. He assumed I would cower. He assumed I would protect the tatters of my life. That was his fatal miscalculation. What happens when you back an animal into a corner and then you light the corner on fire? It doesn't look for an exit. It becomes the fire. You don't escape a cage like this. You burn it to the ground, and you make sure the whole world sees the ashes. He wanted to control the narrative. I'm going to hijack the broadcast. This won't be an expose. It'll be a performance, my final act. The dead man switch isn't his weapon anymore. It's my script. It's my stage. It's my opening night, and the whole world is invited to the show. The live stream opens on Liam Carter. He's on a massive stage, smiling. He talks about vision, about the future, my future, the one he stole. The countdown on my monitor hits 0. The stage is mine. The broadcast glitches. Liam's smiling face dissolves into static. His audio cuts out, replaced by a low hum. Then my voice, clear, cold, and everywhere. Good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is Eleanor Vance, and tonight's presentation is a work of fiction. The man you were just watching is its author. Screens behind the real Liam flicker to life. They don't show corporate logos. They show his own words, emails, private messages, a web of lies I'm about to untangle for the world. Liam Carter sold you a story about a brilliant man. He forgot to mention who wrote the script. He painted me as unstable, a threat. He called it managing a liability. Let's hear what that sounds like, shall we? An audio file plays. It's Liam's voice, raw and unfiltered. She's a loose cannon. We either use her work and cut her out, or she buries the whole company. Do what you have to do. Frame her. I don't care. The silence in the auditorium is deafening. I can hear Liam's frantic voice, off mic. Kill the feed. Shut it down now. What are you waiting for? Too late. The signal is mine now. He was so afraid of me exposing him. He created an insurance policy, a dead man switch, set to release my secrets. He never imagined I'd get the password. He wanted a monster, so I became one. This switch wasn't his weapon. It was his confession, and this is my final act. A new recording plays. It's him again, talking to his lawyer. Of course I stole it all. The code, the patents. She did the work. I built the empire. That's how the world works. She's nobody. The feed finally cuts to black. The line goes dead, but the truth is out. I didn't escape the cage. I burned it down, with him inside. The world saw the ashes. The screen went black. For a moment, there was only silence. My heart hammered against my ribs. A strange calm washed over me. I could finally breathe. Then my phone exploded. A flood of light and vibration on the table. News alerts, missed calls, texts. They all said the same thing. Liam Carter was trending worldwide. I ignored them all but one. His name glowed on the screen. Of course he would call. He always needed the last word. I answered, You think you've won? His voice was pure venom. It's over, Liam. I'll destroy you. You already tried. I didn't let him finish. Goodbye. I hung up, blocked the number. The adrenaline faded, leaving a hollow echo. Victory didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a closing statement, the end of his story, and the first silent page of mine. I tossed the phone on the couch, face down. The silence in my apartment was absolute, not empty, but full of potential. For the first time in months, I could breathe. This was my city now, my life. I walked to my laptop, a sense of purpose returning. This was it, the first real step into my new story, no more looking back. Just as my fingers touched the keyboard, a notification flashed, a news alert from a major outlet. The headline was a punch to the gut. Liam Carter breaks silence. I was the victim. My hand shook as I clicked the link. The video loaded instantly. There he was. Not the monster on the phone, but a performer. His eyes were wide, glistening for the camera. He took a breath. His voice soft, persuasive, and public. My name is Liam Carter, and I'm finally ready to tell my side of the story. My hand shook as I clicked the link. The video loaded instantly, buffering for an agonizing second before snapping into focus. There he was. Not the monster on the phone, spitting venom in the privacy of our calls, but a performer. His eyes were wide, glistening for the camera, rimmed with a redness that suggested unshed tears. He took a breath, his voice soft, persuasive, and public. My name is Liam Carter, and I'm finally ready to tell my side of the story. The words hung in the air, a sickening echo in the absolute silence of my apartment. It was a punch to the gut, a betrayal so profound it stole the air from my lungs. The victory I had just tasted, so sweet and intoxicating, turned to ash in my mouth. My fingers, still hovering over the keyboard, went cold. This wasn't a new fight. It was the same old battle, just restaged on a grander, more horrifying scale. He was doing it again. He was gaslighting the world. A wave of nausea rolled over me, sharp and sudden. My stomach twisted, knotting itself into a tight, painful ball. I stumbled back from the laptop. The screens glow a harsh spotlight on my unraveling composure. The strange calm that had washed over me moments before evaporated, replaced by a frantic, buzzing dread. I could feel my pulse hammering against my temples, a frantic drumbeat signaling the return of the cage, rebuilt stronger and more insidious than before. I hadn't burned it down. I had merely opened a door, only to find another, wider prison waiting. He was a master. I had to give him that. He knew exactly how to play the victim, how to twist the narrative until black was white and truth was a lie. I watched, mesmerized and repulsed, as he began to weave his tale. His voice, once dripping with contempt, now dripped with feigned vulnerability. He spoke of misunderstandings, of intense creative differences, of a colleague struggling with personal demons who had lashed out in a misguided act of revenge. He never mentioned my name, of course. He didn't need to. The world knew exactly who he was talking about. The monitor reflected my own face back at me, pale, wide-eyed, a stranger staring back. Was this what winning felt like? To have the ground beneath my feet crumble less than 5 minutes after I thought I'd finally found solid ground? The anger, a hot, searing flame, ignited deep within me. It wasn't the cathartic burst of rage from before, but a cold, desperate fury. He wasn't just trying to discredit me. He was trying to erase me, to rewrite history, to steal my pain and wear it as his own badge of martyrdom. My phone, lying face down on the couch, buzzed again. And again. The world, previously unified in its shock, was now fracturing. I could almost hear the cacophony of opinions, the endless debates playing out across social media. Liam Carter, the misunderstood genius, the brilliant mind, unfairly targeted. My stomach churned. He had always been good at this, at shaping perceptions, at making himself the hero of every story, even when he was the villain. I walked back to the laptop, my movements stiff, robotic. My fingers, still trembling, hovered over the trackpad. I scrolled through the comments section, a masochistic urge compelling me to witness the damage. Poor Liam. He looks so shaken. She's clearly unhinged. You could hear it in those recordings. Always knew there was another side to the story. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, devoid of humor. Unhinged? I was unhinged. He had stolen my work, gaslit me for years, attempted to destroy my career and reputation, and then had the audacity to play the victim. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking, almost admirable in its depravity. The apartment, which had felt full of potential moments ago, now felt like a tomb. The air was heavy, suffocating. I wanted to scream, to smash the screen, to shatter the illusion he was so expertly crafting. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had learned that much. Raw emotion, however justified, was a weapon he could always turn against me. I closed the laptop with a quiet click, the sudden darkness a mercy. I needed to think. I needed to breathe. But breathing felt like an impossible task. It was like I was back in that meeting room years ago when he first presented my ideas as his own, his eyes daring me to challenge him. The quiet dismissal, the subtle undermining, the way he had isolated me until I questioned my own sanity. He was a master of psychological warfare, and I, for a brief, foolish moment, had believed I had won. No, this wasn't over. It was far from over. This was a new beginning, a new chapter in a war I hadn't realized was still being waged. I thought I had burned down the cage, but he was simply building a bigger, more elaborate one around me, one crafted from public opinion and media narratives. My initial victory had been too loud, too direct. It had played right into his hands, giving him the perfect opportunity to pivot, to reframe, to play the martyr. The cold anger solidified into a quiet resolve. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't lash out. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not again. He wanted a monster? Perhaps. But this time, I would be a monster of strategy, of patience, of unyielding truth. I had the evidence. I had the recordings. He might be good at performance, but I had facts. I needed help. Real help. Not just a platform, but a strategy. A lawyer, a PR expert who understood the dark arts of public perception. Someone who could help me dismantle his narrative brick by painstaking brick. This wasn't about a single viral moment anymore. This was about a sustained campaign, a meticulous unraveling of his carefully constructed lies. I retrieved my phone from the couch, the glowing screen, a beacon of the relentless outside world. I scrolled past the news alerts, past the missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I needed to reach out to someone who knew how this game was played, someone who could see beyond the emotional headlines. My fingers hesitated over a name in my contacts, Sarah Chen, an old friend from my university days, now a formidable lawyer specializing in intellectual property and media law. She was sharp, ruthless, and most importantly, she knew Liam's reputation, though perhaps not the full extent of his depravity. This wouldn't be a friendly chat. This would be a strategic alliance. I took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing the air into my lungs. My heart still hammered, but the frantic panic was slowly being replaced by a steely determination. I wouldn't be defined by Liam's lies. I wouldn't be silenced by his carefully crafted victimhood. This wasn't just about my freedom anymore. It was about reclaiming my name, my work, and my right to exist without being a casualty in his endless game of power. I pressed call. It rang twice before Sarah's voice, brisk and professional, answered. "Hello?" "Sarah, it's me," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need your help. Liam Carter just went on national television and declared himself the victim." There was a beat of silence on the other end, then a sharp intake of breath. "I saw the headlines. I was wondering when you'd call. Come to my office first thing tomorrow. We have a lot to talk about, and bring everything, every single piece of evidence you have." Relief, a fragile, tentative thing, washed over me. I wasn't alone. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning, the city felt different. The air was crisp, the sky a startling blue, but the underlying hum of public opinion felt like a low, menacing growl. My walk to Sarah's downtown office was a blur of flashing news screens and storefronts, each one displaying Liam's perfectly made-up face, his solemn, earnest gaze. It was a constant reminder of the battle ahead, a battle not just for my reputation, but for the very definition of truth. Sarah's office was a minimalist space of glass and chrome, commanding a panoramic view of the city skyline. She was already there, hunched over her desk, a tablet glowing brightly. She looked up as I entered, her expression grave but resolute. "Sit down," she said, gesturing to the chair opposite her. "Let's get to work." The next few hours were a grueling interrogation. I recounted everything, from the initial collaboration with Liam, the slow erosion of my contributions, the gaslighting, the theft, right up to the broadcast and his subsequent victim narrative. Sarah listened, her gaze unwavering, interjecting with sharp, incisive questions. She reviewed the audio files, the emails, the private messages I had managed to salvage. Her eyes narrowed as she absorbed the full extent of Liam's calculated deception. "He's good," she admitted, leaning back in her chair, a sigh escaping her lips. "Very good. He's weaponized public sympathy. The initial shock from your broadcast worked, but he's already moved to control the narrative. We can't just release more evidence piecemeal. It'll look like a desperate scramble. He said situation. My heart sank. So, what do we do? Just let him get away with it? Sarah shook her head, her jaw set. No, we fight back, but we do it smarter. We build a case, a legal case that he can't spin away with a teary-eyed interview. We go after him where it hurts, his wallet, his company, his carefully constructed empire. A lawsuit? The word felt heavy, cumbersome. More than that, we compile every single instance of intellectual property theft, every breach of contract, every fraudulent claim. We depose witnesses. We subpoena his financial records. We expose the pattern of behavior. This isn't just about one incident. It's about his entire career being built on the backs of others. Sarah's voice grew stronger, a flicker of professional fire in her eyes. We don't just win the public's opinion. We win in a court of law. And that, my friend, is a truth he can't outrun. The path she laid out was long, arduous, and terrifying. It meant revisiting every painful memory, every instance of betrayal, dissecting my own trauma for legal purposes. It meant living under a microscope, facing public scrutiny, and the inevitable backlash from Liam's well-funded PR machine. But as she spoke, a different kind of strength began to settle within me. This wasn't a desperate lashing out. It was a strategic counterattack. This will be a marathon, not a sprint, Sarah warned, her eyes piercing mine. He will fight dirty. He will try to discredit you, personally and professionally. Are you ready for that? I thought of Liam's smug face on the news, his feigned vulnerability. I thought of years of being silenced, dismissed, stolen from. I thought of the feeling of having my victory snatched away within minutes. I'm ready, I said, my voice firm, resolute. I've been ready my whole life. The first few weeks were a blur of legal documents, meetings with junior associates, and endless recounting of details. Sarah brought in a team of investigators, digging into Liam's past, unearthing old grievances, former employees who had quietly left his company under dubious circumstances. Each new piece of information, each corroborating detail, felt like a tiny victory, a small crack appearing in Liam's impenetrable facade. The media storm continued, a relentless tempest of speculation and polarized opinions. Liam gave more interviews, his narrative solidifying. He was the visionary. I was the unstable, jealous colleague. He painted me as erratic, prone to outbursts, a loose cannon, using his own words against me, but twisting them to fit his new story. Each time I saw his face, heard his voice, a fresh wave of indignity would wash over me, quickly followed by the cold resolve Sarah had helped me cultivate. I learned to compartmentalize, to channel the anger into fuel for the fight, not a destructive fire. I avoided social media, letting Sarah's team monitor the public discourse. It was agonizing, resisting the urge to defend myself, to correct the record, to shout the truth from the rooftops. But I trusted Sarah. She insisted on a quiet, methodical approach. Let him talk, she'd advised. The more he talks, the more potential pitfalls he creates for himself. One afternoon, a small, almost imperceptible shift occurred. An investigative journalist, known for her tenacity, published a piece that cautiously questioned Liam's narrative. It didn't directly accuse him, but it highlighted inconsistencies in his story, subtle contradictions that only a keen eye would catch. It was a ripple, not a wave, but it was a start. It was proof that not everyone was buying his act. My phone, once a source of dread, now occasionally brought a spark of hope. Messages from former colleagues, people who had left Liam's company years ago, quietly reaching out. They had seen my broadcast, then Liam's counter-narrative, and something had stirred within them. They were scared, but they were also tired of his lies. They had stories, too, stories that corroborated mine, stories that painted a much darker picture of Liam Carter. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was becoming a collective one. The first silent page of my story was no longer just about survival or even just about justice for myself. It was about exposing a pattern, about giving a voice to everyone he had silenced, stolen from, and discarded. The adrenaline of that initial dramatic broadcast was long gone, replaced by the quiet, grinding work of building a foundation of truth. I still walked to my laptop every morning, but now it was with a different purpose. Not to launch a desperate counterattack, but to contribute to the meticulously crafted legal strategy. I reviewed documents, cross-referenced timelines, helped Sarah's team piece together the puzzle of Liam's deceit. The keyboard, once a weapon of impulsive truth, was now a tool for meticulous justice. The world was still watching Liam Carter, captivated by his performance. But a growing number, were starting to look closer. They were starting to see the cracks in his carefully constructed facade. The cage he thought he had rebuilt around me was, in fact, an edifice of his own lies, and with every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every legal filing, we were chipping away at its foundations. This was my city now, yes, but more importantly, this was my story, and for the first time, I was writing it, not with the frantic desperation of a trapped animal, but with the deliberate, unyielding hand of someone who knew the truth and was ready to make the world listen. This wasn't the end of his story. This was the beginning of mine, carefully, patiently, and irrevocably.